Hi, I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West
Audio Body Shop.
Well, I'm in my brand new studio. I think I'll probably give you a tour. And to help celebrate being in my new studio, we've got a special guest, Michael Deming from CharterOak. And what do they make? Microphones and preamps, things like that. We're going to have a great discussion about gain staging and compression, something we always talk about here.
And I've got some cool mic pop screens from the Hook Studios. I'll show these guys off, compare them with the microphone so you can hear how they work, and explain why they may be useful on certain specific picky microphones.
Boom, boom, like this one. Okay, and also in my tip of the week, we're going to have a tour of my new studio. We're going to talk about episode number 2 of what I did to build this. We'll talk about ventilation and some acoustical things that we had to do with it.
Tech news of the week, I've got stuff about the latest in technology that has to do with your home studio, as well as my first thoughts about Mountain Lion.
And we'll have your pick and clip of the week. That's East-West Audio Body Shop this Sunday night, 6 o'clock in the West,
9 o'clock in the East.
We'll see you then Sunday night.
He's the voiceover studio engineer of the Stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East-West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in LA, here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
Good evening, everybody, or good morning if you're in New Zealand or Australia or something like that. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. All right, well, unfortunately, we're not 100% sure what's wrong with Frank and Mike tonight, but we're working on it. So as long as you guys can hear me okay.
We can.
The acoustics are going to be a little bit different, and because I am now in the new studio.
Yay, out of the basement, finally.
Out of the basement. You know, for those of you wondering what's going on, my wife is starting a new business, and she was like, I need a bigger office. And I have been coveting this extra bedroom for, 5 or 6 years, because there's a great closet in the back over here. You can see that. And it's about 4.5 by 3.5. And I looked at it as a perfect opportunity to practice what I preach and show everybody how to make a home studio and a nice home office and all that stuff. And I'm loving it. I'm productive in here. It's going to be easier to keep it neat in here and easier to do the show in here, except that, you know, when Jacob goes to bed, we got to be a little bit quiet because his bedroom's just on the other side here.
Okay, we'll keep the ruckus down at that point.
That's right. So, you know, we might go to 10:30. We might be, you know, and then someone might just stick their head in the door. Hey, Jake's trying to go to sleep. Good night, Daddy. So
we are really at home, everybody. This is truly a home broadcast.
This is really a home broadcast from a real home studio. You like the colors in here a little bit better?
I think it's very nice. Yeah,
a little bit more yellow. Let me give sort of the side view here. I've got you know, there's sort of a pad over there, and there's a door, and then there's the studio is way back here. We'll do a little demonstration, but it's
cool.
Acoustically, it's really nice because I can just change mics and go back there and show you what it sounds like. But
that's true. Yeah, you can do that on the fly, can't you?
That's true. Well, we got other stuff to talk about tonight, though, because we got a great guest joining us from CharterOak, great manufacturer of high-end audio equipment,
but not super expensive at the same time.
Even better.
Yeah.
We'll hear all about it. Michael Deming will be joining us, and he's actually live with you there. You can give him a quick shot there.
Yeah, actually, he is right here. He's going to hang out, and then basically he can poke me on the arm when he wants to be in the show.
Okay, there great. He is.
Sounds great. That's one handsome-looking dude there. All right.
Great.
All right. See, I don't get to see anybody before you have to understand the logistics of this show. I mean, I really don't get to see George until we go on the air and I can actually see the program. So I don't know what he's wearing. You know, all I know is that his shirt is probably untucked.
That's for sure. And if I'm wearing pants, it's only because there's a guest here.
That's right. Anyway, you don't need to go there.
Don't need to go there.
Yeah, but Mike will be joining us in a little while, and we'll have a very lively discussion, I'm sure, about microphones and processors and gain staging and stuff along that stuff. We all know how I feel about processors. Let's see if let's talk to the guys that make this stuff so they can set me straight.
Yeah, it's great. This is the first time we're going to have, like, not only a manufacturer's representative here, but the president of the company who's in charge of, making these things actually happen. In fact, the mic he's speaking into tonight, he actually assembled right before he flew out here from Connecticut. So it's unusual to get someone
almost
that's
like Franken Mike,
right? I mean,
which
it's
I hand assembled.
He's not just a rep; he's the president of the company, so he knows what he's talking about.
He's not just a member; he's also the president. Or he's not just the president; he's also a member.
Right.
Just not of Hair Club, apparently.
Exactly. You guys are on the same boat right there.
That's right. Well, you know what they say. If you're wondering,
the reveal.
Bald guys never have a bad hair day.
That's right.
So,
oh yeah, man.
Anyway, but we got lots of other cool stuff to talk about tonight. It's good to be back after our debacle last week trying to get the Google Hangouts together. But
hey, you pulled it off. I went back and watched the whole show. It was really enjoyable.
I'm gonna have to do that one of these days and see what it was really like. But we did have a good time and talking with the people that did show up. And when we do it again, you'll run it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll figure out what's going on. Anyways, let's get into the meat of the matter. You've got some stuff you want to talk about tonight, I know, because Apple made a big announcement and a big transition this week. And what happened?
What happened?
What happened?
What happened? So yeah, Mountain Lion came out last week. That's OS, for all you Apple people, that's OS 10.8. And, some of you probably just jumped on the bandwagon and plugged it right in. If it's Apple, it's probably okay, right? Well, if you've been watching our show for a while, you probably realize that I'm not the kind of person that jumps in on a new software version right out of the gate. For a couple reasons. I mean, usually when you're dealing with a 0.0 version, it's 10.8, but it's not 0.1, it's not 0.2, it's 10.8, and there's definitely some room for error. I mean, they bug test it and everything long before it goes out to the world, but still, a lot of things sneak up, and so there's nothing wrong with experimenting with a new operating system on a computer that's not mission critical, or also known as a non-production computer. Nothing wrong with that. But don't throw it on the machine that you use to make your livelihood with. It's just not a good idea. I mean, it's basically a form of Russian roulette. It could be a game of Russian roulette with your career if you blow a few gigs because your machine screwed up or your audio drivers break and you start getting glitches in the audio that you never had before, that kind of stuff. That said, the usual disclaimer that I always say, I would say, give Mountain Leopard a couple of months, wait till
Lion.
Mountain Leopard.
Leopard was a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Mountain Lion. Give Mountain Lion some time to, age, get better with age. And features wise, it seems to me like if you are in love with the new things they added in Lion, like the way the interface works and the new methods of navigation, where they've got things like the mission control, the launch pad, all the things that make it feel more like you're using an iPhone or an iPad. If you like that stuff, then you'll like Mountain Lion, because they've added even more of those kind of things, like the notification center. Oh, great! It's a car alarm. The notification center works a lot like the notification center in the iPhone or the iPad, where things will scroll down from the top of the screen. I think on Mountain Lion, they just pop up on the right, you can tell where they tell it where to pop up, but they'll pop up on the screen and just kind of give you an idea of things that are going on, which could be a good or a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you don't like distractions. I don't like distractions. I have learned to turn off all the notifications. I've learned how to, on my cell phone, I've turned off even my email notifications, because I am really bad at multitasking, and all those things distract the heck out of me. And in order for me to get done what I need to get done, I turn off that stuff. But it's there if you want to use it. Also in Mountain Lion, a feature that some people say is really going to be a worthwhile thing is Gatekeeper. And that's like a new level of security for installing software. What's happening is Apple's moving towards keeping software. If you want to buy software that's supported by Apple, you have to buy it from the Apple Store. That is the direction that they are heading in. This version of Mountain Lion, you can install software from other sources still, but by default, they will be blocked if they're not like properly certified. And you have to go in there then and change some settings to allow that software to install. So they've put up another little barrier to avoid getting hacked and things like that. And as we all know, one big reason we like Apple is because generally it's not been hacked very much. There's very few viruses and things. But wisely, Apple is preparing for the inevitable, which is as their product gets more and more popular and starts taking away more and more market share from Windows, it'll become more and more of a target for hacking. So, they're doing a wise move. It's going to start feeling, those of you that use Windows, it's going to start feeling more like Windows. When you install things, you get all these error messages.
Tell me it's not true.
Yeah, I think so. You're going to get more and more warnings and more nanny, just be careful. This came from the internet, and just be careful. This came from somebody we don't really trust. You're going to get more and more of that from Apple. So my opinion right now is I was actually very happy with Snow Leopard, but I was having some issues that forced me to go to Lion. I am not going to Mountain Lion anytime soon. There's no features in it that for me, for what I do, are like game changers. Also, I don't use iCloud yet. Do you use iCloud a lot, Dan?
I was using it, but I didn't buy the entire deal. So you're limited to like 20 megabytes of file. So if it's an MP3 file or something like that, that I'm sending off to a client, I could use iCloud. But I also been using Dropbox and a bunch of other things. So it's not that hard. Anything is possible. All the different these easy FTPs make the cloud. Or iCloud, just another one of them, actually.
Yeah, the thing about iCloud that I don't like is that it is sort of it's in a closed world of Apple, and it's really difficult to send somebody a file outside of the iCloud world that's not on Apple. So, if you're already using Dropbox, I don't feel like there's a really good reason to put a lot of extra effort into getting iCloud to work for everything that you do. I think Dropbox is fantastic, especially because it's open. It works on multi-platform. I'm an Android phone user. It works on Android phone. It works on Windows. I'm not sure if it works on Linux, but I think it might. But it's just much more open and can be used by more diverse user base. So for that reason, I tend to lean towards Dropbox and SugarSync as well, which lets you take any folder on your system and synchronize it to the cloud and just get to that file anywhere.
Yeah. But back to the idea of talking about Mountain Lion here.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking before, I think it was Tony, was asking, have you gotten lots of panic calls from people that are like, oh, Mountain Lion, I got to put it on my computer? Any problems?
Bo Weaver came back from his yearly, I think he goes to a sweat lodge or something. And I'm not joking. I mean, he's really into that stuff.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah. I think he came back from his yearly pilgrimage to South Dakota. Anyway, he sent me an email and said, is Mountain Lion cool? Should I do it? Is it good with Twisted Wave? Because all he cares is, will it work with the software I record with? And I said, listen, man, I haven't tested it yet. And I won't say plunge in because I haven't tested it yet. As soon as somebody else out there says, yep, I'm using the same hardware you're using, the same software you're using, and I've thoroughly tested it, then I'll say, yeah, go for it. I know some people are like, well, aren't you supposed to be the guy that tries all these things? And, I've been there and I've done that. And the thing that I've learned is that I can try it and say it works fine, but it has no bearing whatsoever as whether it's going to work fine with your particular equipment, assortment, whatever random audio device you're using and whatever other gear is in your studio. I have no way of saying it's going to work for you. So I've had a couple people ask me about it, but in general, I haven't heard a lot of people saying they've run into a train wreck with it. Maybe they're listening to us Or maybe they're listening to me more, or they're reading my blog or whatever it is, where every version of every version of Mac OS comes out, I say the same thing. And don't jump on the bandwagon right away. But I can't say it enough because it really is that important. It causes a lot of problems for people when their drivers and their software is not fully qualified to run on this new operating system.
Yeah, well, they will be coming for you. Of course, now I don't have a choice because, well, I suppose I had a choice, but I'm getting I'm celebrating my new studio. I'm talking to you through almost a 6-year-old iMac, which still is clugging along.
Yeah.
But it's starting to get a little, it needs some, some gum out and stuff like that. And so I figure it's time maybe for a new Mac. So I'm going to get myself, I actually ordered it. Maybe it'll show up tomorrow. A new iMac with Mountain Lion server.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Or Mac Mini or iMac?
It's going to be a Mac Mini.
Yeah, Mac Mini. Cool.
Yeah. And fast. I got it with the SSD.
Oh, man.
So it's gonna be smoking.
It's gonna be smoking, dude.
Yeah,
it's gonna be flying.
Yeah, I can't wait to check that out and get that running. So next week probably I'll be on that, and
cool.
There'll be angels flying around me, and it'll be absolutely amazing.
Is it coming? Is it coming straight from Apple, or are you getting it from another retailer?
Oh no, I only deal straight with Apple.
Okay, so it probably will have Mountain Lion on it then.
Oh, it will. It actually said it would have Mountain Lion, which is why I ordered it directly from Apple to make sure I got Mountain Lion on it. And it comes from a warehouse in Pennsylvania, so it'll probably be here tomorrow.
We're like in one of those transition phases where if you buy Macs from other companies, not Apple, Mac Mall, Amazon or something, you'll get it with the old version. But the nice thing is because you're buying it after Mountain Lion came out, you will get Mountain Lion for free. So you'll actually have the old version and the new OS. So when you are ready, you'll be able to throw it on there. Of course, it is $20. It ain't like it ain't a big outlay to upgrade to it. So
right. And can you go back though?
No. Well, you can't. No. I mean, once you upgrade, you cannot go back unless you've done a backup. If you're not doing backups, what the heck is wrong with you, man?
I was in the insurance business. You always buy insurance on yourself. Back up your info.
God, man, anybody not? I still talk to people probably once a week who don't back up.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, oh, so you haven't lost like baby pictures yet, have you? You haven't lost irreplaceable data yet, have you?
See, all my pictures are on my iPhone, and every time I plug in my iPhone, it all syncs up on Dropbox.
Yeah.
So it's all safe. Now, it's supposed to do it on iCloud, so I suppose when I get Mountain Lion, it'll stay.
I have Dropbox on my mobile, and it actually is sending all my photos to Dropbox wirelessly before I even use my computer. And they're already on Dropbox when I sit down. And they also go to Google+. So I have my stuff going like 4 different places. I got files everywhere. I mean,
all right.
If I'm dead and gone, my whole studio goes under a tidal wave. Everything will live on. So we're good to go.
Well, next week, I guess I'll just report on how it does.
Cool.
We'll see.
I'm sure it'll be
all
fun.
right. Well, we've got Michael Deming coming up in just a couple of minutes, and I've got my tip of the week. All of you have been waiting with bated breath.
Oh, yeah.
To see how I ventilated the studio, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And we've also got your pick and clip of the week and lots of other fun stuff. So you stay right where you are. We'll be right back here on East West Audio Body Shop.
train tunnel or an art gallery or your bathroom, and you don't even realize it. Understanding small room acoustics is vital to your success in producing quality sound in your home studio. Acoustics is mostly about listening and knowing what to listen for. On Tuesday, August 21st, the Home Studio Master and VoiceOver Extra present a comprehensive webinar, Home Studio Acoustics, DIY Remedies, and Prefabs. If you've got a home studio or considering constructing one, this webinar is a must. Here's what you'll see and learn. How to select the right room and location for your home studio. Room reflection, what it is and what causes it. How room size and building materials affect acoustics. And how to identify where problems exist. Got some acoustic problems now? I'll show you some DIY remedies for that. How to eliminate or reduce common acoustic problems. Does your audio make you sound like you're in a train tunnel? Or an art gallery? Or your bathroom? And you don't even realize it. Understanding small room acoustics is vital to your success in producing quality sound in your home studio. Acoustics is mostly about listening and knowing what to listen for. On Tuesday, August 21st, the Home Studio Master and VoiceOver Extra present a comprehensive webinar, Home Studio Acoustics, DIY Remedies, and Prefabs. If you've got a home studio or considering constructing one, this webinar is a must. Here's what you'll see and learn. How to select the right room and location for your home studio. Room reflection, what it is and what causes it. How room size and building materials affect acoustics. And how to identify where problems exist. Got some acoustic problems now? I'll show you some DIY remedies for that. How to eliminate or reduce common acoustic problems. How to use special acoustic dampening materials. Materials to avoid, and proper room setup. We'll also talk a little bit about those prefab booths that everybody talks about. That's Home Studio Acoustics, DIY Remedies, and Prefabs, Tuesday, August 21st at 9 p.m., 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Tuition is only $29.95 and includes a full audio-visual webinar recording. Register to learn now at voiceoverextra.com.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Now back to Dan and George.
All right. Well, I'm not going to even ask what on earth went on with the first part of that spot. Now, clearly, we had a sampling rate issue there, or
no, it was QuickTime was in 2x playback mode. It must be a hotkey, like I bumped a 2 or something. I don't know.
I just figured we wanted to get through that spot really fast.
Yeah, that too. I just wanted to get it out of the way.
Completely understandable. I understood what it was, but then again, I've been editing that for the last hour, so I've only heard it about 9 or 10 times. But anyway, yeah, we've got a great webinar coming up on the 21st. Make sure you sign up for that and learn about acoustics. We're going to talk about that a little bit next week, too. Also, well, here I am in the new studio, and all of you have been waiting to see how I built this thing. Yeah, as the Home Studio Master, I felt it important to stay true to my to what I preach about an actual home studio, and I find this to be the ultimate in home studio. And you're going to find out even more, because now you're going to hear the dog barking, you're going to hear Jacob going to bed, you're going to hear my wife yelling upstairs, "Are you done yet?" Stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
See, now the thing about being in the basement is I was in a cave. I was totally isolated. I didn't hear anything. What a great place to hide. Now I hear every conversation going on in this house. It's like these walls are made of paper, you know? And I'm not going to say the same thing that Joe Biden said a couple of weeks ago, because I don't want to know what's going on in these other rooms. But anyway, ventilation's an important thing, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight in my tip of the week. So roll it. So it's time for part 2 of my series on how I built my new studio here. One of the most important things we had to deal with was airflow in there. Otherwise, you could suffocate in your own CO2, and it gets awfully hot. So how do you solve that? Next is ventilation. And this is going to be a tough one because, well, not that tough. I'm going to go through the attic because I need ventilation. We have a ceiling here, and I'm going to put a vent right over there. Look at hard looking at this in reverse. So what you can see I've done now is I've cut a hole in the ceiling, and there's now a vent leading up into the attic where I'm going to put the insulated pipe. It's about a 25-foot section of pipe that's going to serpentine through the attic with an exhaust fan on the end. Cool. This is going to be the unit that's going to be the cooling vent. As you can see, there's an inline fan here that's going to move a tremendous amount of air. And it's connected to a 6-inch insulated conduit. All right, so going up in the attic here, you got to protect yourself. Oh, it's only 95 degrees in here and getting warmer. But here you can see what I did. Hopefully, I've got the vent serpentined all the way around over there. It's wound a couple of times back over to where the vent is above the booth, and then it's rigged to a remote power switch, which I can turn on and off from the booth via remote control. Damn, it's hot up here. 97 now. It's getting hotter as we stand. I'm getting the hell out of here. And now you can see that what I've done is I've put a louver in here. And you can hear a little bit of a rumble, which is a bit of a problem because it's a little louder than I would like. Here, listen. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a rheostat to slow the motor down. So what we have here is the rheostat that I installed that will allow me to adjust the fan speed for whatever it is that needs to be the quietest setting in here. So now all I have to do is go in here and reach for my remote control right here and turn it on. And that turns on the fan in the attic. Or I can turn it off from here. So now it's nice and cool in here. It's sucking the air out of here, drawing it in actually underneath the door. Eventually what I might do is build an intake with a baffle over here to get more direct airflow into here. But for the time being, it's working for what I need it to do for the periods of time that I'm in here. And now it's working really, really well. I'm very pleased with it. The sound in there is very good, and that's the most important thing. There were a few acoustical problems that we had to deal with, and they were actually pretty simple to solve. But that's ventilation, and that's my tip of the week.
Laying across the joists and that the
do you think it's to code the extension cord laying on the joist?
The ground lift on the yeah, it's not good.
Now, hey, look, I used a lot of backup. There's a power surge protector on there. It's a solid state rheostat on the fan, and the people in the people in the town of Amherst building department aren't going to know anything about it. Okay. So it's my attic, and they don't want to go up there.
No,
they never have to know.
That's right.
Nobody's watching this show anyway.
That's right. No, but I mean, I took a lot of precautions. I actually ran all the wires into a box, so everything is actually well insulated there, and nothing's touching and nothing's overheating, and I turn it off all the time. So
yeah, that's good.
You know,
yeah.
It was quite an effort going up there because it really was going over 100 degrees.
If you're wondering why you even would have a switch in the first place, because those little motors, they're not, designed for 24/7, 365 operation, and they have to be shut off to last, for years. So shut them off when you're not using them, and they'll last a heck of a lot longer.
Yeah.
Right. And what I did, and that particular fan was it was an inline duct booster. Mm-hmm. It's made by this company in Iowa, and you put it in line to throw more air into another room if you've got a forced air system, if you've got a hot or a cold place, and it will increase it. Now, this thing was 250 cubic feet per minute. This thing is only 89 cubic feet, so I'm changing the air in there every 30 seconds.
20 seconds.
So that I put the variable speed on it. And I think that probably helps a little bit. It's certainly not as noisy. Yeah. And I also put some anti-vibration foam on the rope where I tied it over the rafter there. So that also reduced some of the vibration of it. It does create a fair amount. They make quieter motors, and I'm going to experiment with some other ones to see if that works a little bit better. But I did an 8-pager yesterday with this thing, and it stayed nice and cool in there, and I didn't suffocate.
Well, you've got two problems to solve. You have to make the vibration from the motor not get into the room. So that's the structure noise. That's usually the hum or the that kind of stuff. Right. You got to keep that out of there. So suspending it off the rafters, having it in midair, that's a great way to do that. Then you have the velocity of the air. That's the cubic feet per minute thing.
That's the rumble, actually, because I don't think the motor itself is really causing.
No, it's not making a rumble, but you're getting the rumble is the air movement, the whooshing of the air. And that's just a matter of the bigger the duct, the slower the air will travel, right? So you can get through a bigger duct, you can get more air, and it doesn't have to travel quite as fast. And so in a tiny room, you can get away with, what did you use, Dan, a 6-inch duct or 4-inch duct?
6-inch duct.
Yeah, 6-inch duct. Now, in a bathroom, they would use like a 4-inch duct, But right. in a room that size, if you want the airflow to be slowed down, use a big a duct you can, and you can always slow down the fan. And just the combination of those two things will get you some very quiet ventilation. What's the noise? Have you had a chance to measure your noise floor and get an idea where?
The noise. It's we've got it down to about minus 54, and because adjusting the speed seems to help that a little bit too.
I was going to ask Mike, in the studios you've worked in, I mean, how often did you actually sit back and measure noise floor of your room? I mean, did you get an idea where you were at?
Often, especially in the tracking, in the live soundstage in the tracking room, we're always trying to get it as quiet as possible. And, especially during drum sessions, where we had stereo overhead pairs, over the drum set.
Distant mics.
Distance miking, ambient miking. So, and you come to a big rest in the music, and you have all the gains turned up and all the cymbals have decayed away and died away. You want it to go down to silence. You don't want it to go down into the sound of the air handling system. So,
where did you get noise? I mean, minus 60,
varies.
Minus 70?
No, it varies. Yeah, it would vary from 50 to 70. And sometimes lower in some places. I've worked in studios that are, where, we would fight the sound of tractor trailers going by, on the highway outside and doing, stopping and doing retakes and that sort of thing, all the way up to, studios where the soundstage you can, hear your heartbeat, which is great. But a lot of times, those studios, the EQ of the room might suffer from all the deadening materials and all the, it's a lot different than just recording a solo voice.
It's quite a trade-off.
It is, and it's the same thing in the control room. I've made my best mixes in control rooms that have a much more natural sound, that have some reflective materials. A lot of studios, they just make it too dead. So you have, problems with the EQ, and it's, you make a mix which, doesn't translate outside that control room. So,
yeah, I mean, we're lucky. We don't have to do, voice actors generally don't have to worry about how that final mix will translate. Hopefully there is a professional engineer somewhere along the way who's doing that for you, but that is a consideration more and more as people are having to self-produce stuff.
Yeah, well, and it's much easier, you're recording a single voice. It's much easier to, get the EQ to be right in a small space and make it quiet, so that you can get that single voice to sound really, really quite good. It's a lot different when you have to record, much more complex sounds, acoustic guitars and drums and all this sort of thing. Drums, the piano, right. Exactly. So,
well, bravo.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to mention that. How much do you think that entire ventilation thing cost me?
I won't answer because I think I know.
$100.
Far less.
Far less.
Far less. The fan was $24. The ductwork was $24.
Okay, you're up to 48. So you're getting close to 100 now.
and the rheostat was 30.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's 70,
And that
78.
was it. And that was it.
Okay. Well, that's because you did it yourself.
You already had the remote control.
I already had the remote
That's
control.
like a $20 thing.
Yeah.
All right, so if you were to like add up the things, if you literally went to Home Depot and bought all $100,
Under $100,
give or take.
yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah. So
Very
it,
affordable.
it helps to have certain materials. I had to buy the louver. The louver was $5 and stuff like that. But it really was not that expensive to really put that in. But you can only really do that if you're on the second floor.
Yeah.
And you've got the attic up there.
Yeah.
So it made sense for me to do that. That seemed to be the easiest thing. So that's what I did. Anyway, it's getting warm in here, and one of the great things about this room is I got a ceiling fan with a remote on it, so I can just like start up the ceiling fan and cool things off that way.
Oh yeah, we got ours going right now.
All right. Yeah.
This room gets
Very
warm.
nice.
Oh, that feels better already. Well, cripes, it was 96 degrees here in Buffalo yesterday. And what did the wife and I decide to do yesterday? Have a garage sale.
Oh, brilliant.
Wow.
Oh, man, I must have lost 20 pounds.
Was
Anyway.
it heavily attended?
Oh, it was. Because we
good.
see, I moved out of my old studio, and there was 15 years worth of crap in there. And
Great.
all the stuff that I had, wires, I had boxes of, RCA cables and transformers from 20 generations of printers. Buck a box. They flew off the shelf. People want those things. Anyway. All right. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about. We'll get a little bit more in depth about CharterOak and the great stuff that they make with Michael Deming in just a minute. So stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
ElDorado Recording Services.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
This is Alex Verdi.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health. George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish
I've got my travel kit. I got my Source Connect. I've got it all going on, thanks to you.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Two guys I love spending Sunday nights with.
All right, we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop, and we got lots of great stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we got a real special guest. Not that Michael's not going to be great, because I am really looking forward to this conversation. Next week, we've got my otolaryngologist.
Finally, he's coming.
Actually, and he is so excited to be on. You're all going, what? He's an ear, nose, and throat specialist. This is a world-renowned specialist in voice production. He is going to tell us all sorts of cool stuff that you're going to want to hear, and he's a great opera singer, too. I think we're going to try and rehearse maybe a Gilbert and Sullivan piece for you guys. That ought to be different. And we've got, I know we were able to book Simon Vance.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And a couple of other big names are going to be on the show. People want to be on our show. As much as we want to be working with them, they want to be on our show.
Isn't that cool?
That's really cool. But it's time to introduce, even though we've spoken to him a little bit, our special guest tonight. He's president of CharterOak, and they make some great stuff, microphones and processors and stuff. And let's give an East West Audio Body Shop welcome, even though you guys can't hear him applauding. Michael Deming. Mike, welcome to our show.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
There he is. All right. Now that's the kind of head that I like to see.
Very easy maintenance.
They really are. See, now I have a bad face day sometimes. You know, you wake up and the mustache is signaling for a right turn. It's
I can see that that takes a little bit of care and
a lot of
maintenance to get that right. Yeah.
All right, so I should let George lead off, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of your company and the kind of stuff you make and why voiceover people should be interested?
Well, we started the company, I guess, around 2004. Our first exhibit was the Barcelona AES show in May of 2005. So it took about a year or more to get the first product to the point where, you know, I thought it was great enough to bring to market. And, you know, I had worked in the business for over 20 years as an engineer and a producer. You know, I spent a lifetime. I mean, I sat behind a mixing desk 300 days a year, 12 hours a day for over 20 years. And, you know, and
that'll wear you out.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're a producer, you know, what happens is that, and a lot of people can deal with this, and some people, you know, go in the other direction, but, you know, you get a lot older and your clients don't. That's what happened to me. I was going up to 50 and all my clients are staying 20 because of the area, the industry that I really worked in, which, you know, I guess in the 90s, the late 80s and 90s, we called indie rock, which really wasn't indie, you know, because the major labels came along and offered those little companies money, and so suddenly, you know, the business got turned into a big business. And but you know, I was very, very busy for a long, long time, and building equipment and designing equipment was always a dream of mine. And when I decided to wind that part of my life down and you know, start the manufacturing company and get into this, it occurred to me that it was going to give me the opportunity to bring to market things that I always wanted to have as a producer, but I really couldn't get. And as a result of that, you know, over the last 7 years since we've been in business, we've been able to bring to market, I think, some of the most innovative, I mean, award-winning, award-nominated signal processors, microphones, you know, and we've taken an approach which, you know, is, you know, we like to say that we listen first and measure second at our company. And, you know,
that's what I like to do too.
Well, we live by that here.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good, I think especially if you are in the business of making, you know, products that are primarily for music production. And that's how we started. But, you know, over the years, we find that, you know, we're making a lot of products now that are being used across all the disciplines of pro audio, you know, from mixing and recording to mastering to, you know, voiceover recording, live sound reinforcement, permanent AV installs, all of this stuff. You know, so, you know, as our product line grows, you know, we start to find our products everywhere, you know, and we're able to, you know, think about where we want to go next and, you know, take it from a kind of a problem-solving approach, as well as trying to, you know, do something distinctive. You know, we like to say we're creating the classics of tomorrow at our company. Mm-hmm. So we're not, you know, copying the older, as it relates to the microphone side, you know, we're trying not to copy the old German designs, which I think is very important, because God knows there are enough companies that are doing that. Okay. And on the processor side, you know, think of how many microphone preamplifiers there are out there. I mean, literally there are hundreds, from the smallest little boutique companies up to the large corporations that are making professional equipment. You know, a lot of these boxes, you can say safely that 75% of the boxes do the same thing in pretty much the same way. So, you know, when my company decides to bring a microphone preamplifier to market, it has to have features that directly, you know, solve a problem, or give you, you know, for instance, our microphone preamplifier, you know, it has a way to, you know, mix the clean input with the output drive. And this is something I used to patch together for myself at the patch bay. I would be patching a clean mic pre into something with an amplifier and a transformer, and then I would patch that into a high and low pass filter, and I would have a bunch of, you know, patch cables. So I've decided to, you know, that we could combine all that into one box. So, you know, that's the way we're approaching things.
Yeah. So go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead, George. Your turn.
Well, I know it's so hard for us sometimes with the delay, but yeah. So comparing your mic preamp with something that more of our audience may have seen or used themselves or even may own, like the Grace M101.
Right.
So that's a real straightforward preamp.
Very straightforward.
Known to be very clean and pretty accurate.
It's clean gain.
And it's got a gain switch or a gain knob, which is stepped. And then
that's a rotary switch.
Yeah, it's a rotary switch.
That's right.
And then it's got a trim.
That's right.
It's got a high pass filter button and a 48 volt phantom power, just the real basics.
Right.
The next thing I think of, you go from a preamp, then I think the next level from there is a channel strip.
Right.
EQ, compressor, all this other crap.
We're in the middle. We're in the middle of the development of that right now. Where we have finally finished the MPA-1 design and brought it to market. Now we have what we believe to be, the best microphone preamplifier, the best compressor, and the best equalizer on the market, or certainly one of the best. Mm-hmm. Now we're combining all three of those elements into one 2-rack space box. Wow. And this is this is what in the industry we call a channel strip or a recording channel. It's essentially a mono device, with the ability to compress and equalize your signal and have a very good mic pre on the front end of it.
Before I get into the channel strip, because I did want to talk about that, but a little bit more about the preamp itself. So in a box that's still considered just to be a preamp,
right,
where there's no EQ or compressor,
right,
you still have a lot of options for shaping the sound a little bit.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
So what else is in that preamp? Like you were saying, you can adjust the input and the output separately, and you've got filtering and things.
Sure.
So what else can you do?
Well, let's just talk about the high pass filter for a second. Most preamps, even some of the more elaborate ones, you will see a high pass filter switch, as you described on the Grace, and this gives you a fixed roll off. It selects a frequency, and then you have it's a shelving roll off, which is sometimes up to 24 dBs per octave or more.
So pretty steep.
It's very steep. It's very steep. So since we're coming more from the music production side of the business, we probably wouldn't use something like that in one of our designs, and we haven't. On our design, what you find is a constantly variable high pass filter that is 12 dBs per octave. And the high pass and low pass encompass most of the bandwidth of the entire device. The high pass goes from 10 hertz up to 200 hertz, and the low pass filter goes from 10K up to 60K.
Wow.
And at 12 dBs per octave, what you find is that you have a nice gentle roll off that has a rounded curve. It's not just so steep and so heavy handed that you can easily tune the rumble out of a room, but yet retain some of the nice warmth and round bottom that you might find in your voice that you want to hold on to, that you may lose if you hit the high pass filter switch on a lot of preamps, because it's just chopping off all your bottom end.
I find you have to add it back in later in your software and find that frequency you lost.
Exactly, and that can be problematic. You have a little bump of EQ and you get
exactly
so
For example, then Mike, so here in my new studio where I've got a little bit of a rumble coming from the vent, which I'd like to have up a little higher, just to make so I make sure that I'm that I'm getting enough air through there, maybe the maximum amount, so I'm getting a lot of fresh air. So if I would use the high pass filter on this, it would allow me to maintain, because.
So do you know about what frequency that rumble is coming through into your room?
It's below 125.
It's below 125. That's fabulous. So what you want to do with our device, you would be able to run your high pass filter probably all the way up past 125, up into the 180, almost to 200, depending on the sound of your voice and how it how it works with your microphone. I don't know what you're using for a microphone, but.
It's not one of yours, but it's one of those German designs.
I understand. So let's given that the mic has a good bottom end response and you're getting really good big warm sound, which is what you want. You're going to be able to get rid of that rumble and save more of the sound of your voice, which is super important. There's where a design which is looking for better musicality is actually going to help you guys, a lot. And that holds true on the low pass filter as well. Shelving really steep low pass filters that we see in preamps, You know, sometimes they're just too much. They chop all the top end off. You know, on our device, you know, like I said, you know, the thing starts at 10K and goes all the way to 60K, and that's on a tiny little control. You know, when you're at 12 o'clock on that control, the frequency that you're starting the roll off is somewhere around 30K.
So can you really hear? You know,
absolutely,
we always say the human
can.
hears from 20 to 20 theoretically, but can you hear that something above
theoretically
20K?
is the key word right there, because you know, you can take, you know, the sound of a microphone. You can take a microphone that has a pretty unrefined and harsh top end that might have cost not too much money, and make it sound like a very expensive microphone with that subtle low pass filter, you know.
Oh wow.
And because the range of those filters is so wide, it's very easy, you know, for someone who's not an engineer to dial that into something that sounds really quite good.
Right. Well, a lot of people.
Good,
go ahead.
It's good for, say, someone who has a lot of sibilance or something along
absolutely,
those lines.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, if you're using a condenser mic that, you know, has a presence peak, you know, which most of them really do have a pretty heavy presence peak these days, you know, you can tone that down, but you can tone it down in a way that you're not chopping off all the top end and making the sound, you know, kind of like a closed and sound. You know, you can keep an open and big sound going with that thing. You know, I realized how useful and how good the design was working when we were showing our H1000 condenser mic for the very first time at the New York AES show. And we were in Javits Convention Center, and we all know how loud that air handling system is. And just the ambient noise of a trade show is, you know, oftentimes quite high, although, you know, the AES show is known to be a more quiet show. It's not as loud as NAMM or Frankfurt Music Mess or something like that.
Yeah, they keep it down.
They keep it pretty much down, yeah, exactly. But still, you know, we're dealing with ambient noise, a pretty heavy-duty rumble coming from the air handling system. And the H1000 is a really very big, very sensitive vacuum tube condenser microphone that we make. And you know, I plugged it into our preamp and I walked over to that thing, and within 30 seconds, I was able to get my voice to sound absolutely perfect. Like it sounded like it wasn't really missing anything, but I was able to get rid of high-end hiss, you know, high-end ambient noise and low-end rumble quite easily.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. I mean, and to us, I mean, George and I, our philosophy really is that, you know, a microphone is not supposed to enhance your voice. It's not supposed to make it sound different from what it is, because for voiceover, what you're trying to sound like is you.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to, you know, have the microphone capture your voice as it exists and send it down the tube as it exists without messing with it.
Which is hard to do, because we're doing this in a closet or a really small room in most home studios.
It's hard. It's hard to do. Absolutely. And, you know, what I could say is that, you know, the basic premise of that is correct. You know, that you want the microphone to capture you as you are. It's not a bad thing if the microphone captures you and then some, and makes you sound even better than you are. But it's a very bad thing when the microphone, you know, you're fighting with the microphone and the microphone's making you sound worse than you are.
Yeah.
That's not good. So
most often the problems I hear are in the sibilant range, I think.
Absolutely, because modern condenser mics, especially the cheaper ones, you know, on the tube side and even the solid state, you know, we see, you know, inexpensive components being used in the head amplifier, you know, which is the, you know, the amplifier circuit that's behind the capsule. We see, you know, a lot of electrolytic capacitors and this sort of thing, which, you know, make the microphone sound like it has a harsh top end. And, you know, this is, you know, this is something that, you know, either you go out and invest in a very expensive, you know, microphone and spend a lot of time auditioning them to see what sounds really the best for your voice, or, you know, you can, you know, tend to the problem elsewhere in the signal chain. You know?
Right.
Question came up in the chat room about, you know,
tubes.
They see that a lot of your mics are tubes. You know, in what situations would someone really opt for a tube microphone?
Well, you know my opinion. My opinion is that, you know, tubes have no place in broadcasting and in voiceover recording. You know, That's my opinion, okay? But at the same time, Sirius XM Radio has used CharterOak SA538s religiously. They've got serial numbers under 100, and they've been using them for 7 years on live music broadcasts and stuff. You know, you can build a vacuum tube microphone that is dependable. It can be done. You know, ours come with a lifetime warranty for the original owner. You know, and we try to build them really strong and really, you know, so that they are, you know, are consistent and dependable. But yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. And if I were a broadcaster, I would never put a vacuum tube on. You know, it can just fail in the middle of what you're doing. You know, so
it's not solid state. The whole point of solid state is there's no, you know, electrical, mechanical devices.
And for voiceover actors who are not engineers, I really, really don't think a vacuum tube microphone is a good idea, because a vacuum tube can gradually fail. And if you're not really used to listening really closely to your noise floor, and, you know, you're not just totally in tune with the sound of your system, you know, you can have a vacuum tube microphone where you're not getting your money's worth for several weeks before it starts to fail, and that can, you know, that can make you miss an audition or not get, you know, it can directly affect the work that you're getting, and you don't know that it's happening.
Gradual, you know? Yeah, gradual failure is the worst, almost the worst kind, because it's so hard to tell. You know,
you don't know. You don't know.
You're too close to it. It's so true with the folks that have, my clients that have like tube preamps. The Avalon 737 is in a lot of studios, and I go in there and I patch everything in, and I start listening closely in headphones, and I'm like, there's a lot more noise floor here, or a lot more white noise
than there was 2 weeks ago,
or that there should just there should be.
Sure,
because I know that preamp. And when did you last time you retube this? Oh, I've never. What do you mean? You know, I'm like, let's retube this. You shouldn't have to. That's just one other extra piece of maintenance you shouldn't have to deal with.
Right, and
in a home studio,
dealing with that in a preamplifier is you know, it's a pain in the neck, because obviously you got to take the top off. You have to
take it out of the rack,
take it out of the rack, and take the piece of equipment apart. And then, you know, a person has to know enough about it to, you know what the input tube is. You know, because that's most likely the, you know, the high gain part of it is the part that's failing. You know, so you're looking for your dual triodes and this and that, and, you know, if you're not used to maintaining the equipment, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So you know, I would stay away from it for voiceover actors and in general people who aren't experienced engineers. It's just going to create problems.
Yeah, those are things that really, if you're in a professional studio, let the people that know how to use them. But in your home studio, that's not the best idea in the world. So what microphone would you suggest for is probably the best for your average voice actor?
Out of the CharterOak,
out of our line?
Yeah, and taking into consideration everybody's voice is different, and obviously every room is different, and things along those lines.
Out of our line, I would suggest only two models. The model I'm talking on now, which is the S700. This is a very unique mic. It's a large diaphragm. It's a 1-inch gold sputtered Mylar diaphragm with a pure Class A head amplifier behind it, and you know, it's designed mainly for broadcasters. You know, it's a condenser. It gives you a nice, big, fat, and round sound, you know, and with presence. And, you know, you can get up on it for more bass, and you can. And what was something that's really nice about this mic that I'm proud of in the design is that, you know, we get up on it like this. The bass is very, very linear. It doesn't get, you know, you don't get bass proximity effect that just overloads the sound and forces you to have to roll bottom end off. That's very important. And then, you know, you can get a very flat and nice, you know, simple, flat, uncolored sound by going 3 and 4 inches away, which is really what it's designed for.
Yeah, I mean, granted, right now you guys are hearing a little bit of bottom end boost because of our processing we're using for the show, like our air processing, quote unquote. But the mic coming in, the mic is going, it's going straight from the S700 into just a plain old Mackie board.
Yeah,
with no EQ whatsoever.
Yeah,
straight in.
And also, you know, like we were talking earlier, you know, working a little bit off axis is always good. You know, it's not a great idea to you know, get right up on the capsule and push a whole bunch of air, you know, on a sensitive diaphragm. Obviously, you can get away with that more with a dynamic mic. But if you're using a condenser mic with a big diaphragm, you know, turning it a little bit off axis, you know, it will help you, you know.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot.
The other model that we make, which is it broadcast companies all over the world, from Nigeria to Europe to US, it's everywhere, is the E700, and that's a really, really robust solid state dual diaphragm condenser that also has a pure Class A head amplifier.
It's dual diaphragm. Does that mean it's a switchable pattern or no?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a true dual diaphragm. It's not a single backplate with two membranes like we see a lot of. This is you know, two capsules bolted back, you know, back to back, and it has a very large diaphragm. It's a 1.22 inch diameter. So it has incredible transient response. I mean, this mic is used a lot in music production. You know, if people are looking at our website, there's a really nice performance by a folk artist from New Zealand that you can click to his. There's a video of it, and he's singing into an E700, and they've got a spaced pair of M900Ts on his acoustic guitar, and it's a beautiful sound.
Oh, that's
but
cool.
that microphone is, you know, it's so dependable and so tough. It's, you know, it's in, like I was saying, it's in broadcast environments as, you know, demanding as Africa, where, you know, it's super hot and people are not treating the equipment well. There's tons of particulate matter in the air, all of that sort of thing. That's a microphone you can't kill, and it has a really, really big, you know, big, nice open sound.
So does this mic have an integrated pop filter or no?
What it has is, the reason we're not hearing any plosives and T's and P's and T's leaping out with this sensitive condenser mic is that it does have an extra layer of Sati-Tech high-phobe acoustics right inside this stainless steel mesh. And, you know, that's not enough to completely get rid of plosives if you're going to get right up on top of the mic. But what it does do is make it fine if you're a little bit off it and a little bit off axis like I am right now. We're not having any problems.
No, it sounds excellent. That's a top address mic?
Yeah, it's a front address.
Oh.
It's got to be one of the, we made years ago, we designed a mic called the S600, which is a vacuum tube large diaphragm microphone, and that has the EQ curve of a ribbon mic. It has a pretty steep roll off starting at 10K. And you know, the reason for that was, you know, in the home studio, a lot of guys, you know, there's this big vintage craze in our business, you know, and everybody's looking at old pictures of the Beatles and things like that. And a lot of that is really bad because, you know, people look at those pictures and they think, wow, what a great idea it would be to hang two Coles ribbon mics over my drum set. And then, you know, and then they wonder why they have no top end in their cymbals and stuff like that. So, you know, we realized that a lot of these project studio guys are trying to work with ribbon mics, and in a small room with low ceilings and parallel surfaces and all that, when you're recording a drum set or guitars, that can oftentimes be really problematic. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring to market a microphone that had a little bit more top end, but basically the EQ of a ribbon, right? And have certainly a lot more output level, and put that in a front address wide cardioid, you know, package. So that's where we got this form factor that you're seeing here of the S700. It's exactly the same metalwork and everything, yeah.
So that leads me to another question that's come from the chat room from Paul. Are the mics assembled in the USA? How much of them are US versus overseas manufacturer?
Well, none of our products are assembled overseas. The reason our prices are so good is that we import a lot of our products, or I'm sorry, a lot of our materials. You know, like we import, you know, rough brass and steel castings from Asia, but we machine them in Connecticut and nickel plate them and powder coat them and laser engrave them here in the United States. You know, all of our PC boards are populated here in the United States, and of course our component set is super high quality. So you put all this together and you get a very, very high quality device at a reasonable price. And especially if we buy things like carrying cases, shock mounts, power supply boxes, like I said, those rough and steel and brass castings can come from China.
Sure.
But you know, even on the accessories side, I have to say we have to watch very carefully what goes on with our Chinese manufacturing partners, because, you know, sometimes quality can slip, and we got to keep a really close eye on it, you know. And that goes for, you know, all the accessories. But when it comes down to things that are germane to the sound and the signal path and component level stuff, you know, building capsules, this sort of thing, you know, we don't have any of that stuff done overseas. It just, you know, that if you want to have a distinctive sound, and you want to be in the business of selling your equipment and not fixing it, right? You really need to have control of that under 1 or 2 or 3 roofs that you can, get to easily. Now, on the signal processor side, for instance, we have a factory in the Dominican Republic that makes the steel boxes and does like what we call a rough assembly process, and then that stuff is sent to us, and we do all the finish wiring and finish work. So that process is similar to the microphones, but on the microphones we do a lot more finish work than on the signal processor, because it's just very, very meticulous. And then when it comes down to listening tests and measuring and all that stuff, we have to do it ourselves.
I mean, you've just given an extreme amount of thought to the production chain and prioritized where the costs need to be spent and where they don't have to be.
Absolutely,
and that's really
absolutely.
what makes it affordable.
You look, when you get let's say you've just bought a CharterOak 538, which is kind of like our flagship condenser microphone that has been on the market for a long time. It was our first product. It has sold in big numbers. It's made many hit records. It beats $15,000 microphones in shootouts all the time. You have to look at every single little piece of that thing. I mean, you open the case, and the case is made in China, but the first thing you see is a Swiss-made Gotham cable with Neutrik hardware. That 7-pin cable that passes those supply voltages in the audio from the mic back to this power supply. That's a seriously important part of that kit. So we can't skimp on the price on the 7-pin cable, because it's such an integral part of the sound quality, and it has to be bulletproof. That thing cannot fail over the years. It's got to be a bulletproof thing. So when you open up any of our mics, you see right away the meticulous attention that's paid to just it's simple things like wiring the capsule and all of it.
It's totally true.
Yeah, sort of like an Notch Voice 626, which you can actually use as a hammer.
And it's shaped in a way that lends it to be used as a hammer.
It does. It works extremely well for that.
Yeah. 635, is that the one you're talking about?
626, I thought it was.
Something like
the
that.
666.
Oh, there's that one too. Yeah, the 666.
All of those things are big and heavy metal. They can all be used as hammers.
Exactly.
And still make you sound as pure as the driven snow.
Possible.
Yeah. Anyway, Michael, it was a pleasure having you on the show tonight. It's always interesting to, we've been wanting to talk to the manufacturers and get them on and, get them to see our perspective and, of course, hear your perspective on this. And I was very interested in hearing about the channel strips and because everybody knows what I say about those, but I really respect what you had to say about that. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So thanks for coming on and being a guest here on East West Audio Body Shop.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for making the trip. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really.
It's great to have you actually in the studio.
All right.
It's always more fun that way.
Way more fun.
We've got a lot more coming up, actually, in just a couple of minutes. We've got your pick and clip of the week and a few other things and a few announcements. So we'll be right back here in East West Audio Body Shop. Don't go to bed quite yet.
Hey, my name is Bob Ball. I'm a voice actor and host of Pop Quizzical. Sure. I hear you thinking, Bob, what is this Pop Quizzical you speak of? Well, I'll tell you. It's a fun and funny, single-themed 10 to 15-minute audio quiz. It comes out every other week right here on the internets. That thing that just about everything cool flows from. Pictures of cats, videos of dogs, and yes, Pop Quizzical. It's available on iTunes and wherever fine podcasts are sold. And it's easily found, too. Go to bit.ly/popquizzical. There's also a companion website at popquizzical.com with daily quiz questions, and every Friday over on the Pop Quizzical Facebook page, it's a Freebie Friday. Free stuff throughout the day. From The Muppet Show to James Bond to St. Patrick's Day, the Pop Quizzical podcast has a little bit of everything for you. Challenge your mind and your funny bone with Pop Quizzical.
Class dismissed.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Now back to two characters that didn't have anything else better to do, Dan and George.
Well, what else are you going to do on a Sunday night? Well, this is the best place I can think of, and now being a little higher up in the world, or at least by one floor, this is a fun place to be. But it's always fun spending Sunday night with all you guys, and we're always thrilled to see you in the chat room and getting your emails and all your questions and stuff. So keep that coming. Another great place to go, of course, is to one of our great sponsors, Harlan Hogan, and his wonderful website, VoiceOver Essentials, which you can go over to voiceoveressentials.com, and covering me up completely, which is fine. But he's got some great pop screens on sale this week or something. The VO1A PF Silver Pop Filter.
Oh, yeah. I think
Click on the image to learn more.
Yeah, I missed it. I'll go back.
Oh,
there we go.
right,
Click
go
on
back,
the
go back.
image. There it is. There's his pop filter that he's that they're doing from MXL. That is a strap-on pop filter. It goes right onto the body of the mic, and I think it'll work on a lot of different microphones. But it was designed to fit the VO1A, and that's Harlan's very affordable condenser mic. It's a mic I recommend to a lot of folks who already have maybe some other equipment and they just need their very first condenser mic for voiceover recording, and they're they're on a tight budget. It's a really great way to start. And I know people that are doing quite nicely running that mic as their day-to-day mic. So but as you can see, the design harkens back to the days of the Beatles. I think that's what mic do you think that is, Mike?
It's a U47 right there. It's a Telefunken U47.
Yep.
That's the design. So actually, yeah,
20 grand on one of those things.
Well, these days they cost 20 grand.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're not worth 20 grand.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
That's
the vintage craze that I was referring to before.
Exactly. But yeah, there's there's his little pop filter. It's a very cool looking. I mean, the nice thing about a pop screen that straps onto the mic, and I'm going to show you one here in a little bit that I have laying on my desk, is that the pop screen moves with the mic. So you're not. I know a lot of clients of mine say they'll sit down and they'll stand up, depending on the type of the read that they're doing. And to have the microphone have its own pop screen physically attached to it really makes it a lot easier to change position really quickly. Otherwise, you usually end up having to monkey around with the pop screen, and it's usually hanging off of a limp gooseneck. It's a pain, So these pop screens that actually physically strap onto the mic are a huge advantage. So check it out. It's a cool little product, and it's a perfect mate to the VO1A.
That's right. So go on over to VoiceOver Essentials and buy all your stuff there.
Please do.
Because he's got great stuff there at great prices and selected specially for you. So you don't have to shop all the way around all over the world looking at all these amazingly expensive things. He's got stuff that works just great.
Cool.
But we also recommend other great stuff like the stuff at CharterOak, because we know that
Absolutely.
stuff is good too.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks, Harlan, and thanks you for being our sponsor here on East West Audio Body Shop.
Thank you,
Well,
Harlan.
we've got a couple other things we want to cover tonight. There was something you had something about some pop filters or something.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna, we talk a lot about. Well, from time to time we talk about pop filters when I think they're necessary, when I think they're not. Sorry. A lot of it is proper mic placement. Now, if you saw Mike earlier, the way he had his mic positioned, he's not shooting right down the barrel, right down his throat. And that helps a few things. It keeps you from having too much sibilance and overbright sound. It also keeps down the plosives. And the pop screen's job is to try to keep blasts of air from hitting the capsule, as well as keep the capsule protected. And in most cases, my opinion is if you're going to use a pop screen, if you're using it to keep down a lot of plosives, you may not be using the mic quite right, because you shouldn't have to worry about popping the mic all that much if you're using it slightly off axis like I am, for example, right now. I'm just using a 30-35 because it's one of the only condenser mics I still have in my arsenal of stuff because I've gotten out of recording. But it proves the point. Now I'm using a pop screen on it right now. This pop screen is from the Hook Studios, and it is a pop screen that's in a similar way to what you just saw from Harlan, straps onto the microphone itself. So it rides with the mic. No matter how you position the mic, the screen stays with it. And I think that's really helpful. if anything, just to have something between you and the microphone to keep it from getting moisture on the mic, I think is really important. Moisture is the #1 enemy to any condenser microphone, and just to have that thing between you and the mic, I think is really valuable. They also make this cute little one that's not too terribly different in shape from that one you saw on Harlan's website that I thought might be a good companion to the Apogee mic, like the mic you're using tonight, Dan.
Right.
You know, there are no pop screens made for the Apogee mic. It's a very small microphone. You're usually going to be using it on a little tiny folding stand or something portable that you're traveling with. And any of those normal, like, you know, we're talking about gooseneck pop screens, they flop over.
And of course, the pantyhose special.
Oh, you made one.
Nylon's
you made
not
one.
good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It
Are
works,
you kidding?
but it's
Peter
not.
Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
It works, but it's not
the most important thing, you know, about these pop filters you have in your hand and the one you have on your mic.
Yeah.
Is I should say the guy who makes these pop filters, Mike Frenchick with the Hook Studios, he also makes our pop filter, the PF1.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and the thing that's great about, and it is also a strap-on kind of design, right? The greatest thing about these pop filters is the material that they're made out of. They're made out of Sati-Tech High-Phobe Acoustics, and this is not nylon. It's an Italian company. Yeah, it's metal, exactly.
Metal. Oh, okay.
But it's a very high-tech fiber, and if you look at it under a microscope, you can see that they've, you know, shaped the fiber so that it repels moisture, and they have the data to support this. You know, these pop filters made out of this material, they bounce the moisture back at you, so it doesn't go through and you know, get to your capsule, which is really bad. Or in the case of a nylon pop filter, the nylon just holds onto it, and then it gets kind of stuck and gummed up in there. It
gets gummed up eventually.
Sure, and then you start to compromise the frequency response of the microphone.
I see.
So, you know, this stuff is really, really quite good, and we use it in our pop filters.
That's what's inside that mic right there?
That's right. That's
what's
inside.
You mentioned that earlier.
Exactly. It's right underneath the stainless steel mesh, and we even use it, you know, for instance, you know, in the vent on our small 20 millimeter condenser mics and stuff.
Okay.
It's a very, very good material.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this thing popped up on my radar because I thought it was small enough that it could strap onto a really small mic like the Apogee Apogee mic, which that little travel mic is really plosive sensitive. I mean, the problem with having a body and the capsule so close to the screen and there's nothing in there to protect that mic at all. It's really plosive. It's really, and as you can hear, handling sensitive.
Handling noise is not good on that microphone.
Small mics have a lot of handling noise and a lot of plosive noise. So they don't have rooms for like suspension and all sorts of fancy things to keep down the noise generally. So so I just thought this thing looked pretty cool, and keep your eye out on the website. We may end up starting to have a couple of these with our name on it. We'll see.
That would look great with our logo. You could stare at us all night.
Absolutely.
Imagine that for a 500-page novel and just staring at us the whole time. That would really drive you.
I don't know about our picture. Maybe just EWABS.com. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe just EWABS.com.
But anyway, sometimes a pop screen is good to have.
Yeah. So what do we have for our pick and clip of the week?
Oh yeah, maybe we should start wrapping this show. Let's get that pick and clip going here.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left here.
This photo was submitted by one of our viewers, Jason Huggins, and he sent in a photo as well as a sound clip, which we encourage you, if you'd like to have your photo of your studio shown. People post photos all the time on Facebook. Look at my new studio. Look at my new whisper room. You know, they're really proud, and like they should be. They spend a lot of money and time. The first thing I always post is, let me hear it. You know, to me, the sound is everything. I'm never going to be in your booth. I could care less what it looks like. I want to know what it's going to sound like. So please, when you send in your pictures, send an audio clip so we can all hear what you got. But anywho, Jason did send in an audio clip, and I will bring up the photo so we can see the studio as well as hear it at the same time. Here is le picture. And let me go full screen so you guys can see it better. So, oh yeah, look at that. That thing's looks like it's either got ATS or some other, or even maybe a home-built acoustical panel.
Yep.
Fabric wrapped a fabric wrapped insulation type panel, and which is one of the better ways of treating acoustics, in my opinion, versus just using acoustical foam. You get a lot more out of the material. It controls a lot wider range of a frequency, and it just looks a heck of a lot better too than charcoal colored foam and stuff. So
that's a nice looking studio, and he's using LED lights.
Oh, he is. Yeah, those are LED track lights. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Very nice.
All right, so let me see if I can successfully play you a little clip of what this, what his studio is sounding like. So here is the clip.
Hey, Dan and George, this is Jason from SpeakWithJason.com. I'm totally honored to have you feature my studio on your show. Let me tell you a little bit about it. First, the studio has 2x6 construction with staggered studs and double-layered drywall. Everything's all sealed up tight, and then a ton of rock wool around the inside for deadening. As far as recording goes, I have a modded Rode NT1A that goes into an Apogee Duet 2 interface, then into my iMac, and I'm using Adobe Audition CS6 for recording. I guess that's about it for now, so thanks for featuring me.
You're welcome. Thanks for sending it in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jason, that's great. And of course, he's using all the same stuff I do, so you got to respect a guy like that.
I guess he listens to the show.
He obviously does. You know, he's got his KRK Rocket 5s in there, and his iMac, and but that's a nice looking studio. I mean, aside from the fact that he custom built the room, and it looks really nice too. It actually inspired me to try and do something like that in here, and then I'm like, it's fine as it is.
Use the closet.
Not too many people come up here. Although I am going to have Dr. Bernstein up here next week, so I'm going to have to actually clean up.
Well, that's a more comfortable place to have a guest than the other space, so that's great.
Oh yeah, I don't know where I was going to put him in there. He was going to stand behind me. I think it's the best way to deal.
Well,
with that.
I always say that the looks of the studio don't matter because nobody's going to see it. It's not a commercial studio, but there is a point where if you don't feel good in your studio, you don't perform as well. I mean, I know in the music world, Michael knows this. I mean, studios put a lot of effort into the aesthetics and the design to make it a comfortable place to work, and
it's got to be inspiring.
And
it can't bring you down. I mean, if you're in a workspace that is depressing, it's very difficult to come up with good tracks and good ideas and that sort of thing.
It's true. If every time you go in there and go, God, I wish I could fix this place up.
I'm somebody that really needs sunlight. So I was always, having problems just about everywhere that I would work. And I would open up the doors and everything and work around the noise a lot of times so that I could just get outside air and sunlight to come into the studio. A lot of studios where you just don't know what time it is.
Oh yeah, it's like being in Vegas.
That's rough. Yeah, it's not good.
No clocks, no sun, no sunrise, no sunset.
Yeah, being in the Yukon too. Yeah, I've got the same thing here. I've been able to move upstairs. I now have a large window here.
Yeah, that's great.
I can hear the birds singing, and I can see, hear thunderstorms, and open the window and get fresh air.
These are the intangibles that we don't think about when we're designing studio. I'm thinking about it's got to sound good, but yeah.
Well, it affects your mood, and it affects everything that you're doing. So,
right. Well, I'm feeling a lot better up here. It's so nice being up here with my family. Now I know what it must be like at the White House. When The Rock comes home from work and stuff like that. He brings his work home with him. Well, my work is home, and that's the way it is.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to bring it to another. What do I like to say? Bring it to close with a whimper instead of a bang.
No, I thought we ended on a pretty cool note there, actually.
This has been great, Mike. Thanks for being with us tonight, and
thanks for inviting me.
Mike's going to be at the lab net. Mike's going to be at the DLF lab, the Don LaFontaine voiceover lab on Wednesday. 95% sure that's a full house already. Most of the stuff we do over there fills up pretty quickly, but it doesn't hurt to check. So send an email to vol@sagfoundation.com. Check in over there and see if there's a spot they can slide you in on the list. If at least you could be on the wait list if somebody else bows out. They're really on the ball when it comes to, if someone ducks out, letting someone else come in.
Great.
He's going to talk more about the kind of stuff we talked about tonight. You'll be able to try out the microphones yourself. He's bringing in you're bringing a mic preamp to the lab.
I'm going to bring our new MPA-1, which is a dual channel microphone preamplifier. which has those features I described.
Yeah.
It has your gentle high and low pass filters. It also has a 60 dBs of gain on a rotary switch, which is followed by 20 more dBs of gain on a constantly variable pot.
Oh, so you have smooth,
right? But in this design, that pot is more than just a trim control, like it is on most preamps. This pot feeds an output stage, which feeds an output transformer. So you're able to mix the clean input side with the transformer balanced output side, and this can really,
it's an additional flavor.
Exactly.
Tone control.
You can basically mix transformer coloration in or out of the sound. And it's very, very useful.
So we'll get to play with that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get some.
I want to play with that.
We're going to get some good recordings. The lab and Mike has already donated. Which mic did you donate to us? The
E700, right?
We have an E700 already.
That's right, and an SCL1.
An SCL1, which we didn't have time to talk about tonight. That's a whole nother show. I mean, we'll have Michael on again.
The artifact-free compression
it's pretty magical.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have more to talk about another time, but he'll be there if anybody's interested and going to be in LA and wants to try to be there for that. Do check in with the lab and see if we can get you in there. But I'll be there. I'll be there with Michael.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, and we're also still looking for a correspondent. You guys, we want to see these videos.
We do.
Where are you guys? You're here every week. We say we want videos. Show us that you can do what we do.
Turn on your camera.
Turn on your camera. Look how. Listen, I've been making this thing about the my studio here. I've been doing it with an iPhone.
With an iPhone, you guys.
People are shy. You know how it is.
Yeah. Voice actors shy.
They're voiceover people for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want you to see them. They want you to hear them. That's it. It's a totally different thing.
Use a pen name. Use a pseudonym. Whatever you have to do.
We don't care. We just want to see them. That's the most important thing. And then we'll have a contest, and for lots of swag.
Yeah, we'll give away something really cool. I promise. I got some ideas.
Right. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this week because I think Jacob wants to go to bed.
Yeah.
He's got a test tomorrow. He's taking summer school.
Oh boy.
On the Cold War, something I know a lot about. Had an interesting discussion about that today. But anyway, moving on. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam and with Michael Deming here in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. You guys have yourself a great week. We'll see you next Sunday night, 9 o'clock here in the East and 6 o'clock in the West. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.